swag. I'm sick. I'm swag. I'm sick. Oh, it's you. Hey, come here. Shh. Let me tell you a secret. I'm gonna tell you about something. I'm Buddy the Bud, and I will be your guide today. We're going to talk about the benefits of healthy cannabis, also known as marijuana. Come on. Shh, don't tell nobody. Let's roll, Daddy-o. The benefits of medical cannabis by Joshua Cheney.
On the morning of March 14th, 2011, federal agents executed 26 search warrants on medical marijuana businesses across Montana.
I have no access to my medicine. How can they do this?
I'm one of the owners of Montana Cannabis. We caregive for hundreds of people that are sick, and right now their medicine's being destroyed. They're cutting it down, taking it for evidence. We've operated clearly within state law, so have all the other caregivers that they're raiding all across the state today.
The 10 medical health benefits of cannabis. Marijuana has been criticized in the media for its recreational use. However, in the past few years, medical marijuana movement has picked up speed, supported by scientific research providing positive health impact of a plant. Here's a look at 10 major health benefits of marijuana. It treats migraines, doctors in California report that they have been able to treat more than 300,000 cases of migraines with medical marijuana. It shrinks tumors. The American Association for Cancer Research has found that marijuana actually works to slow down tumor growth in the lungs, breast, and brain considerably. It relieves symptoms of chronic disease. Research shows marijuana can help treat the symptoms of chronic diseases like irritable bowel disease and Crohn's because it can treat nausea, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. It prevents Alzheimer's. Hey, marijuana does a lot of stuff, man. 50 billion people in the U.S. have Alzheimer's. In 2006, the Scripps Institute found that THC marijuana works to prevent Alzheimer's by blocking the deposits in the brain that causes the disease. It treats glaucoma. Some studies suggest that the use of medical marijuana helps lower intraocular pressure in the eyes of glaucoma patients. It prevents seizures. Marijuana is a muscle relaxant that has anti-asthmatic qualities, which have proven to be very effective treatment in seizures. It helps those with ADD and ADHD. ADD affects an estimated 4.1% of adults ages 18 to 44 in a given year. Well-documented 2009 USC study showed that marijuana is not only perfected alternative for Ritalin, but it treats the disorder without any of the negative side effects. It treats multiple sclerosis. Marijuana works to stop the neurological effects and the muscle spasms that come from multiple sclerosis by protecting nerves from the damage caused by the fatal disease. It helps relieve PMS. As many as 97% of menstruating women have some premenstrual syndromes. Evidence suggests that cannabis use may reduce pain in severe cases of PMS. It helps calm those with OCD and Tourette's. Approximately 3.3 million Americans in the U.S. have OCD, and another 272,000 have Tourette's. Just like marijuana can treat seizures and multiple sclerosis, marijuana effects slow down the tics in those suffering from Tourette's and the excessive neurological symptoms in people with OCD.
And that's the sweet, sweet sense, you know. So what? Yo, finally the herbs come around. The hybrid when me a look for me get it by the phone, yeah. Sweet sensei a come around. Me a take a little jar and pass it around. So finally the herbs come around. The hybrid when man a look for me stock it by the phone, yeah. When Babylon a come around, ask them where them a go search for. Ever since the herbs slow down, police and road boy them in a showdown. Them a search round the compound. You know a man and a weed clown. Find a little piece of land and a plant me home ground. So tell the youth them not to take pill. Too much crack and cocaine a make the world a feel ill, you know. Enough ganja, enough spliff a pill. Only thing we a make man feel still.
Yeah, this is real life.
Judge Gray.
Well, thank you. I guess I am the final presenter list formally on here, and I want to commend you, first of all, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hagman, for inquiring in this. I want to commend you for your leadership in bringing up this really important topic. And I'm also going to commend you for staying within schedule. That's an amazing accomplishment in itself. I would, now that I guess I am the last presenter, like to comment quickly about a few other things that have been discussed, and then I would like to talk to you about children. But that issue really has not been addressed particularly, except maybe by Reverend Richardson. The first is that if this state of California were to in fact make this marijuana no longer illegal for adults, that is not at all the same thing as condoning it. We don't condone the smoking of cigarettes or the using of alcohol, etc. So to put that label on it, I think, is inappropriate. Number two, as I have an understanding that today, as we speak here in Sacramento, that there are thousands of people in prisons in the state of California today for doing nothing but smoking marijuana. Thousands in prison for doing nothing but smoking marijuana. Why? Because they're on parole for one reason or another. And once they get off parole for whatever that offense was, if they smoke marijuana, it's a violation of parole, and they're immediately put back into state prison with all of the benefits that they had accrued, getting jobs, etc., supporting their families, being lost. Another one is that the tougher we get with regard to marijuana prosecution, literally, from my experience as a judge, and I have seen this in Orange County forever, the softer we get with the prosecution of everything else. And that is something that we simply have so many resources, and if we're spending them in prosecutions of marijuana, we are not spending them for prosecutions of rape, homicide, etc. Then, marijuana will never put this violence that we heard earlier out of business. All of these statistics that you heard earlier about the violence and the killings of both the police officers and everyone else is occurring under today's system of marijuana prohibition, etc. The only way you put these Mexican cartels out of business and these other violent creatures out of business is to undercut the price, to make it no longer illegal so that you don't have that enormous profit motive to get these people involved with that violence, etc. The only way you do it is to undercut the price, and Assembly Bill 390 is a really good place to start. Otherwise, there are marijuana today that is stronger in our society without a doubt. But the reason why it's out there and stronger is because of marijuana prohibition. That there are lots of people who would much prefer, like you said, not to use the stronger stuff, but the cardinal rule of prohibition is always push the stronger stuff. So if I'm a bootlegger and I run into the same criminal justice problems for selling a barrel of beer as a barrel of bourbon, guess which one I'm going to push? The bourbon, because I make more money. It's the same thing with marijuana. Nothing is going to be legalized in this state. It is a program of the strictly regulated distribution. It wouldn't be legalized. It's a strictly regulated distribution, just like alcohol and cigarettes. We hopefully will not advertise them. Please put into your legislation not to allow this to be advertised. We want to de-glamorize it, not glamorize it. So no advertising, and hold people accountable for their actions. I know I'm going on, but I'd like to talk about children for a couple of minutes, because today our marijuana laws are putting our children in harm's way. We are continuing with this failed program for all of its defects, so-called, because we want to reduce the exposure of a lifestyle of marijuana usage and marijuana selling to our children, and it's doing the opposite. Today, it is easier for our young people to get marijuana than it is alcohol. And if you don't want to listen to me, ask any teenagers you can find. They will tell you that because of alcohol prohibition, marijuana prohibition. And Reverend Richardson kind of stole one of my lines, because it's true, because the illegal dealers do not ask for ID. So let's make it less available for children by regulating and controlling it. Number two, adult drug dealers will recruit children to sell drugs. They will recruit them into their own drug distribution system. For $50 in cash, you can buy all of the 15, 16-year-olds in the inner city or anywhere else that you want to. It's chump change for the adult drug dealer. It's lots of money for a kid. So you use them as gophers and lookouts and couriers, and as soon as their reliability is established, then they're trusted to sell small amounts of drugs out in the communities. And who do they sell to if they're out there doing it? I assure you, no one in this room. They're going to sell to their 14, 15, 16-year-old peers. That is despicable, and it's caused by drug prohibition. So I say, let's reverse that, let's turn it around, let's regulate it, let's control it, because this prohibition is not working. I believe it fervently. I'm so concerned about our children. I'm so concerned about these illegal marijuana out there with all of its ramifications. I want to reduce those harms by passing your legislation, and I commend you again for these hearings.
People drink a lot of alcohol, right? And they get drunk, right? Now, when you get drunk, you know, you meditate, you just drunk and you feel miserable. Now, when we smoke, it makes it cool, you know, it stimulates your mind.
Why is marijuana illegal? Many people assume that marijuana was made illegal through some kind of process involving scientific, medical, and government hearings. That it was to protect the citizens from what was determined to be a dangerous drug. The actual story shows a much different picture. Those who voted on legalize or the legal fate of this plant never had the facts, but were dependent on the information supplied by those who had a specific agenda to deceive lawmakers. You'll see below that the very first federal vote to prohibit marijuana was based entirely on a document lie on the floor of the Senate. You'll also see that the history of marijuana criminalization is filled with racism, fear, protection of corporate profits, yellow journalism, ignorant, incompetent, and/or corrupt legislators, personal career advancement, and greed. These are the actual reasons marijuana is illegal today.
Instead you get foolish, you sit down and then you can meditate and be someone. Rum teach you to be a junker, and herb teach you to be someone. Right? I mean, too much of anything good for nothing, anyhow.
Cannabis is
too much
medicine.
of one thing good for nothing. So, we have too much herb, it might hurt you. Right? But, I mean, earth is the land of fullness thereof. And herb is a plant.
Last year I set out to make a documentary film to explore in part how such legal inconsistencies have contributed to the failure of the war on drugs.
The molecular structure of THC, Delta-9
Let's go back to the
tetrahydrocannabinol.
I met Chris Williams 7 months before federal agents raided his medical marijuana business. Marijuana providers in the state. Montana Cannabis seemed to be complying with Montana's state law. Chris acted on the advice of a lawyer and relied on conversations with county attorneys.
The history of cannabis. That's good stuff.
This is one of them days when your ass just wanna chill out. And motherfuckers be all in your ear and shit. You know what I'm saying? Or that nagging bitch just like to hear herself talk. Blowing all your highway. And that's some fucked up shit.
This is a historical timeline. History of marijuana as medicine. 29 BC to present. 29 BC Chinese Emperor Fu. His references marijuana as a popular medicine. 27 BC, Chinese Emperor Xin Nang said to discover healing properties of marijuana. 700 BC, medical use of marijuana in the Middle East recorded in the Vidid. Persian prophet philosopher Zoroaster was responsible for this. 1611 to 1762, Jamestown settlers begin bringing marijuana to the North America. This is an illustration of the Jamestown colony. 1850, marijuana added to U.S. pharmacopoeia. 1906, Pure Food and Drugs Act requires labeling of medicine, including cannabis. January 1915, President Wilson signs Harrison Act, the model for future drug regulation legislation. It went downhill from there. Hold on, I'll tell you about it. Psst, you hear this? 1930, Harry J. Auslinger appointed Commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Little did he know, he was going to succeed. With his reefer madness, all due to the fact that they were really short in coming up with the effects of nylon and trying to sell this, and it compromised his enterprise. So he added it to the prohibition. Many people were incarcerated due to this. 1942, marijuana proved and removed from U.S. pharmacopoeia. Remember Prohibition? November 24th, 1976, federal court rules Robert Randall's use of marijuana a medical necessity. December 18, 2004, AARP poll finds that 72% of seniors support medical marijuana.
You know what I'm saying? He stopped, he took a deep breath, he said, "Woo! Good morning, ladies." You like that shit, man? Pretty good. Hey, man, I got a gang of that shit. shit, man.
April 20, 2006, FDA confirms opposition to smoke marijuana for medical purposes. The FDA approved it. February 25, 2009, U.S. Attorney General says raids on medical marijuana clinics will not continue. Don't make us fight for our medicine, the people said. February 28, 2012, federal judge dismissed a lawsuit against government for its raids on medical marijuana clinics. Hold on, that's biased, ain't it? July 24, 2012, LA County Council bans marijuana dispensaries in unanimous vote. November 6, 2012, Massachusetts becomes the 18th state to legalize medical marijuana.
I'm going to pass around just a little tiny bit, and I want you all to take a smell so you know when someone is smoking marijuana near you.
Today, even though the states recognize that the federal law does not. So we're being forced into prohibition without a choice.
I said, you know my feelings, and now I feel okay. Give me such inspiration to look at things another way.
He and his partners even gave routine tours to state law enforcement and community leaders.
To walk through a greenhouse over 100 feet long full of cannabis, and to have our local sheriff's deputies come and do tours with me, to have our drug task force come and do tours with me, that was amazing.
So when you harvest this plant, do you harvest the whole plant?
Look at the size of that. That really looks good.
It does. It smells good too.
Well, I never imagined that I'd ever see a plant this big. I mean, this is just in Montana.
In 2004, Montana had passed a voter initiative to legalize medical marijuana, and today 18 states and Washington, D.C. have these laws on their books. But there's a big catch. Medical marijuana is still illegal under federal law. The Controlled Substances Act of 1970 makes that very clear. And the federal government has discretion about how to enforce laws in medical marijuana states. The Obama administration seemed to make federal policy more lenient for medical marijuana. A 2009 memo from the Justice Department indicated that the federal government should not focus federal resources on individuals whose actions are in clear and unambiguous compliance with existing state laws. So Chris Williams had good reason to think he was safe from federal prosecution. Fast forward 7 months from the time I first met him, and it was clear that he was wrong. And Montana cannabis was not the only place affected. Last year, without warning, the feds began to crack down on growers in medical marijuana states across the country. Suddenly it appeared that the Department of Justice's 2009 memo was no longer in effect. It was an unexpected return to the failed policy of prohibition and punishment. In a subsequent memo last year, the Justice Department clarified the policy to say that medical marijuana patients would be free from prosecution, but not industrial growers. Congress, the department noted, has determined that marijuana is a dangerous drug, so now apparently, those who grew it on a commercial scale were dangerous criminals. Which meant that large growers like Chris Williams, in spite of their efforts to follow state laws, were not safe from federal prosecution.
after the raid, it was really hard on my son continuing school. My son's teachers had open class discussions about whether or not medical marijuana was right, about whether or not I should go to jail. Folks that I felt great support from just within the community have turned their backs completely. The most grim thing that I could think of would be my son having to go into state care. That's really what I fear the most.
In the end, Chris Williams decided to take his case before a jury. On September 27th, he was convicted on marijuana charges and for possessing firearms during a drug trafficking offense. He is currently behind bars, and he faces a minimum mandatory sentence of more than 80 years in prison. Today, about 75% of Americans support legalizing medical marijuana.
I am viewed as a criminal. I do not feel like a criminal. The people I work with are not criminals. We are following laws. We're not breaking them.
The most controversial aspect of Rastafarianism is the use of marijuana as a central part of the philosophy. Officially named ganja, it's colloquially described by the Rastas as herb, and Bob Marley is said to smoke a pound a week. It's outlawed in Jamaica, and a convicted smoker can expect an 18-month jail sentence.
The more you accept herbs, the more you accept Rastafari. You dig what I say? We who accept herb is important, but herb is more important to the people who don't accept it yet, because that is a reality. I mean, it's not selling selling something that you crave, but you check it in your sense and say, herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Why these people who want to do so much good for everyone, who call themselves governments and this and that, why them say you must not use the herb? You see? And we check that and we can't find, we just see them just say, no, you must use it because it make you rebel. Against what?
Believe that legitimate patients should have safe and reliable access to cannabis. We need to reform federal law to be consistent with the states, lifting the cloud of uncertainty that puts growers and patients at risk.
Jeez, after all that information on cannabis, I'm sure heavily medicated. However, it is real messed up that the feds don't recognize the laws the states have passed. I appreciate all y'all. Thank you for watching. Until next time, this was produced from Joshua Chinney. And please, support medical marijuana.